Great. So our guest today is goes by performs under the name AF the Naysayer. Yeah, cool. So we're just checking out your new video. So let's just start there. The one with the cats on the bicycles and stuff. Where'd y'all shoot that?
That was in Austin, Texas, the Old Torp Garage. It's very famous in the Flatland BMX community. It's kind of like a famous spot. A lot of like pro riders go there. Austin, Texas is pretty hilly. One of the very few flat spots in Austin.
Right, so. And so you've got a sort of, I don't know if I want to call it a tradition at this point of getting your music played behind BMX stuff.
Well, because that's my background. My background is BMX. I used to compete in the flatland circuit, and so
Okay, cool. Well, that makes a lot.
I'm really involved in the BMX community in general. So
Okay, cool. So how did you get from BMX to making music?
I mean, they came at the same time, honestly. Um, Literally, it sounds mad corny, but it's the truth. It was raining. You know, we're in Louisiana. It rains like crazy during the summer,
Right.
subtropics. And I was like, I can't ride in the rain. I didn't have I wasn't in the garage like in the video. So I was in Lake Charles and no garages there. It was raining too much. I remember my buddy showed me this video of this guy named Nick the Wonder. He was programming a drum machine, a sampler, and I was like, man, that looks tight. I want to do that. And it just started from there. It was just too much rain and all this energy I had, and I always wanted to make music. Never really knew how to go about electronic production and whatnot. And at that time, YouTube people were putting up tutorials, and it's kind
So
of
the YouTube training was how you got there.
Kind of, because what ended up happening is the guy who put the video, I ended up talking to him. His name's Nick the Wonder, Nick Hernandez. I ended up just reaching out to him through MySpace and AOL Instant Messenger.
Yeah.
Dated myself with that.
Yeah, you're definitely placing it in a time frame there.
And we became friends. He kind of like mentored me. Originally, I was trying to get gear and whatnot. I couldn't afford it. He mentioned software is it's a lot of people are using it. And at that time, when I think about the hip hop community and whatnot, they were frowning upon technology. So it wasn't it wasn't cool to use Fruity Loops.
Right.
It's like, no, you don't have an MPC. Oh, get out of here.
So is that where you started, Fruity Loops?
I started on just using Fruity Loops, honestly, and just chopping up samples from records, and then that evolved into learning more about programming synthesizers and patches, and here I am.
And go from there. Is that still what you're working in, Fruity Loops?
It's if it ain't broke.
That when you find a flow that works. Okay. So who are some of the influences? What's some of the music that's helped you find your sound?
Oh man, there's this a lot of people relate my music to video games. So there's plenty of video game composers. Yuzo Koshiro, he's definitely one of them. Yuji Takanouchi, he goes by Technouchi. Definitely, he's probably the biggest out of all the video game composers. People credit him for being one of the first to put techno and house into actual video game music. If you guys are familiar with Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear, he was a composer for that game. So.
Okay, cool. Is much of your stuff in video games, or is it just more that influence coming into music that you're placing in other places?
I worked on this game called Mecha Wars, and not Mecha, but Mecho.
Right.
Trying to enunciate. I worked on that game, and I actually did a remix. I was working with this guy named Sean Beeson. He's out of Ohio.
Right.
Video game composer. Hit me up to do a remix of 2 of his songs, and so I worked on that game. And from that game, I got more work on this game called Steam Pirates. Also working with Sean Beeson again. So they're 2 iPhone app games. They're highly regarded. One of them was nominated for an award for its music. So it was the Gaming Audio Network Guild at GDC, which is kind of like the Grammys for sound design and video games.
How's the business structure work if you're making music for a video game? Is it like a work for hire? Do they just pay you a flat fee? Or do you have some piece of the game? How does that work?
Oh, I wish I had a piece of the game. They gave me some money. So no, it was a flat fee. So, and at the time, I had I had no true credibility except for Sean just knew my work, and I just started asking questions about music. I'm like, hey man, how do you do that stuff, man? And he was like, your music's great. Actually, I have this project. You should work on it. You want to help me out? All right, cool. And I was paid a flat fee both times. I worked on those games.
So how did you meet Sean?
Literally through my good friend Ben Lewis, who I know in the video game world. I used to play Street Fighter competitively, and he was one of the guys who used to play. And
wait, so you've been a competitive BMXer and a competitive Street Fighter
I have many past
player.
lives.
Okay, cool. So. This cat's, I got to do more research next time. He's got stuff hiding back there.
Yeah, so I used to go around challenging fools at the arcade.
So through a Street Fighter friend,
yeah,
you met the composer. I think that's going to be a theme running through our talk today. Is
Oh, yeah, it's all community based.
Community and meeting people. Before we get to that, do you? I mean, you talked about coming up thinking hip hop, and you've talked about video game composers. Do you think about your music in terms of genre?
I mean,
is there a thing that you call it when somebody asks you what you do?
I mean, like a lot of that's determined by like blog writers and whatnot. So I think like the hot key term now is people say future bass or future beats. I don't really care for that term too much. Usually if someone asks me, it's just like, it was electronic music. I just try to keep it as plain as possible, but if I'd like to put the hot tags on that, I would be, oh, future beats, that, down tempo. Try not to say trip hop because it's not true and it's a really old term.
Right.
And it's, so.
I've in my own music had that experience of like, I don't, y'all call it something. I'm just gonna make it, y'all can figure out.
And just from like talk to like people I know in the industry and whatnot, like musicians, like I was talking to Cornelius Harris. He, if anyone's familiar with Underground Resistance, he was one of the members of Underground Resistance, a big part of the techno movement out of Detroit. And he kind of just told me like, blog writers really determine the press, I should say. Yeah. The press determine what the genres are,
So most of your music is instrumental, but we watched this one video of the cat rapping in Korean.
Oh.
That's Korean, right?
Yeah, it's Korean, yes.
So how did that come about? It was like a really fascinating thing to deal with the rhythmic aspects of the language when it was a language that I didn't understand.
So that's Supon, Blue Chan. He's a friend I met through the internet. One of my friends, his name is Ivan. He's also a producer, a really close friend of mine. He's out of Germany. They work together. He was like, you guys should work together. And then we talked about it. And then, usually you talk about doing things that never happens. And one time he was just like, just make a beat for me. And I was like, okay, yeah. So I just literally made it in, I don't know, probably made like the rough draft in like 15 minutes into his way. He was like, I like it. And I was like, okay, let me really try to produce it. And he sent me the lyrics, mix it up.
So it's got that like sort of that section in the middle where it goes to the more acoustic thing for a second.
Oh, so that's actually not my part. That's my friend Yvonne.
Okay, so the thing split up into two beats, and the first one's yours, and then his. Then it like sort of comes back, right?
Mm-hmm. So it's like a digital single, and like the A side is my version, the B side is his version.
Okay, cool.
He decided, Blue Chan decided that he wanted that to be the whole music video.
So that the video is actually
transition.
Two different versions, your version and Yvonne.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Because when it went there, I was like, wow, that's a really stark contrast. And I was going to ask you if you sent it to him that way.
Oh,
or if, no, but it's actually that makes sense that it's two separate things. You've done a couple of countrywide tours, nationwide tours. You're about to go on another one. If I understand correctly, you don't have a manager, right? You do all this yourself. So how do you get a tour of that magnitude to happen without anybody helping you out?
Well, so the first tour, there is always help. So everybody gets help. That's a lie if anyone says they do anything by themselves. So I did have help. I just don't have a manager or a booking agent. Well, I'm actually working with one now, kind of, but I still do most of the booking myself.
Okay.
It's just building connections through all the people and other musicians I meet. So the kind of music scene I'm involved in is very communal based.
Right.
So, but it's also a little weird because a lot of guys who are producers who are only doing like instrumentals don't tour the way I tour. And even like the bigger acts, they usually fly city to city and then they have like a bunch of off breaks. I'm taking more of the punk rock route where playing show every day.
Get in the car and drive.
Driving, playing like DIY venues to big venues and whatever.
What's your tour rig like? Is it just you, or do you have other musicians with you?
Like when I was working with this rapper named Luke St. John, and we had a group together. And when we performed together, we had a bass player and a drummer.
Okay.
And but we just weren't making enough money to make that really work. So it's just me right now. So, but that's for right now.
The financial reality of touring when it's you in your car is very different than when it's a bus with 8 people.
If I had a band, I wouldn't be able to go on tour the way I'm doing without really going broke,
Yeah.
So, or no one will make any money. It would just be break even. That's it.
Right. So what type of venues are you playing when you tour?
Oh, it's any and everything really. From like big venues that like they're like 500 cap to literally someone's basement.
Do you have a preference?
Actually, I like the house shows the most because usually most places where there are house shows, there's this built-in scene and culture, and sometimes you actually make more money playing a house show than you would playing at a show at a big venue. Like for instance, Low End Theory in Los Angeles. It's like huge. A lot of people want to play there, but when it comes to like the culture of buying merchandise, when you go see a band play, there's not that built-in or like, oh, you were great, and that was it. You know, where like
Right.
you might play a house show, it's like, oh, that was great. Hey, you got any merchandise? Where can I buy? Where can I find this out and all that? So, like,
Right. I find there's a much more immediate connection with people
And
on
people
a
really-
house show, and they get to hang out with you after, and then they think, okay, this dude's cool. I want the T-shirt.
And they
or the
really,
CD
and they
or
really, and
whatever.
people really do appreciate it, and like people really do appreciate you coming to play, and like it's not like that everywhere. It's just certain, like especially in the Northeast, especially like Boston, they have like a really great like house show community scene and whatnot. So, last tour I did, I wasn't even supposed to play. It was like a New Year's show, and one of the people who promoted for this, like this place is called the White House. They asked me to just do a guest set, and I was like, okay, I'm in town, sure. So I played it. Literally only did like a 15-minute set, and I probably made more money selling merchandise at that show than I did like most of the tour, like for one day, like
Right.
one day. So.
So when you tour, is the revenue largely come from merch or from show fees, or kind of is it a pretty well balanced situation?
The way I try to set it up, I try to track the mileage of, and like, what vehicle am I taking? What's the mileage? And try to route everything out and just do all the math. And I try to get what the guarantees and the door, I try to take in consideration, like I estimate, like, okay, this is how much I think I'll make. I talk to promoter, this is how much would they expect, and I give or take, you know,
Right.
of course. And then I try to get that to cover food and also the gas and a little bit of extra lanyap on top.
Right.
And then the merch is all profit.
Right. Okay. What type of merch do you sell?
Music, I was selling t-shirts, but at the time I was thinking too far ahead of myself, where like, you know, I feel like people buy t-shirts when they're truly fanatical about you.
Right.
They want to rep you. But if you're like, don't have like a huge name, or you're going to places where no one cares about you that much, you're not going to buy a t-shirt. They'll buy some music if they like the music. But so I have t-shirts, stickers, I also do donation, you know.
Yeah.
So
what format do you sell the music in?
cassette tape, vinyl, CDs. And believe it or not, like people might scoff at the idea of cassette tapes, but I'm also in a community where people enjoy that. Also, sometimes I'll play a show where they'll see cassette tape. That's crazy. I used to use cassette tapes. I'll totally buy that. I don't even
Yeah.
have a cassette tape player. So people like the novelty of it, but
Does one do better than the other?
I think it depends on what city I'm in. Because like there's certain, like me, I don't buy CDs, you know, but I'll buy like something else. I'll buy something like MP3 or sometimes tapes. I do have a tape player. I don't play
Right.
tapes, and because a lot of my friends only release things on tape. So I'm like, it's part of the music culture I'm a part of. And yeah, it just depends on the city.
That's cool. So how long do you go out for? How long is it?
I try to do a month because I feel I was doing the weekend warrior thing. You know, in my past relationship, it wasn't really cool. I couldn't really go on dates on the weekend or anything like that, and it just made things really difficult. So I felt like it's a lot easier and is actually more productive money-wise to just take about 27 days to like in between 27 to 40 odd days and just go on tour back to back to back and then just rest for like 2 or 3 months. That formula works for me.
Okay, that's cool. Well, and that's nice because it gives you a chunk of time when you're home to plan the next tour.
I could just actually usually by the time I'm on tour, I'm already planning the next one. So I'm already planning the next tour I'm doing in May.
Right.
Like even though I haven't even started the first tour. So,
What's your rig like that you travel with? If we go see you perform, what are we gonna see?
So I have a drum machine, a sampler. I had 2 samplers. One's more like an effects-based unit, and the other one I just trigger all the samples and I kind of daisy chain them together. It's a Roland SP404SX, and the other one's a Korg KP3, Chaos Pad 3.
Right. Okay.
So I just use that's my live show. So
And is it all So sample based, all that stuff's preloaded, or you kind
Yeah,
of?
it's preloaded,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I can do some improv tricks on it and stuff like that. So usually if you see me twice, it's not exactly the same. So
Right.
there's some freedom with it.
So you had a song on an ESPN commercial for one of their BMX things. How did that come about? I mean, you already mentioned earlier that you have this BMX community hookup, but riding BMX and getting a song in an ESPN commercial is not exactly the same thing.
This is really true. Someone told me a long time ago, it's like your best, like if you're doing music, your best friends should be, film editors, and I didn't listen to the other part apparently. But yeah, so I had a lot of film editor friends, and I just, hey, you guys need music? What's going on?
So you sought them out.
Well, yeah, and then they're actually like my friends too. So
Right.
a lot of times after I make when I make things, I give them to all my editor friends. Like, hey, you guys are holding on to this. If you guys need to use it for something, let me know. Just get in contact with me. So like ESPN, they usually have, and most companies, most bigger corporations, whatnot, they go through like some kind of licensing management.
Right.
So they have a built-in library already. But I don't know, my buddies, most of my friends who know the ESPN library, they don't like it. So I know a handful of guys who do editing at ESPN, and I was one of them. He just put my music in there, and they were like, "Hey, this was great." It was for the web at first. They're like, "This is
Okay.
great, but now we want to run this on ABC and ESPN," and that's what happened. So you
And
just
there you
ran
go.
it, and
So this is a buddy that you know from riding with him?
actually, no. We never rode together. We met each other at an event. I did some music for this guy named Terry Adams. He's a pro BMXer. He had like a documentary about his life.
Okay.
It was called Dreams. He came out to film like a little ESPN short for the event. So he had like a movie premiere, and there was a BMX jam out front of the movie premiere. And then we just exchanged information and kept cool. His name is Stu Johnson. He's a legend. So if anyone was like really into BMX, you've probably seen some of his video
Right.
edits and footage.
So it sounds to me like you're always meeting people and keeping up with that, with what they know, what they can do. Is that a conscious thing, or is that just like part of your personality? Of you
I
remember
mean,
people?
honestly, it's like it just happens naturally. It's just, I don't know. I just use
Because you don't seem like the kind of dude who's walking around passing out business cards, but it also seems like you remember the people that you meet, and that those connections come back to work for you in some way.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has talent. Everyone does something. So it's, I think you should never look at someone and be like, oh, this person's useless. That's crap to me, you know. I just use common sense, really. Just keep in contact with people I like. These are like all these people I talk to. These are people I actually are genuinely like my friends, and I actually like these people. I would hang out with these people. You
Right.
know? These are people I go hang out with when I visit them in the city and whatnot. So, yeah.
And they just happen to have cool jobs making videos.
Well, I just know a lot of creative people, and most creative people tend to hang out with people. So, like, if you notice, like a lot of people who are actually doing things, they
Right.
kind of just know other people who are doing things. It happens.
That's an excellent point, that we sort of find our own tribe, and if our tribe is creative people, maybe we're not all the same kind of creative, but
But yeah, we all inspire each other. Like everyone's
Right.
an expert in their own different field, and I'm not an editor. I make music. He needs music. There we go. We also have a common interest, BMX
right.
and music.
So your videos, this one with the bike guys, did you produce that yourself, or did you hire somebody to make that? How's that process work? Say,
Okay.
so when you go to make a video, how creatively are you involved in the video aspect?
Oh,
of
well,
it?
that video, I wrote the shot list and the script for it. I wasn't actually there. I went through my good friend Tyler Russell. I met him I used to work in the movie industry as a grip.
Okay.
And I met him working on this horror film in Mississippi, and we kept in contact and became friends, like legitimately, like.
Yeah.
And I told him like for a while, like I wanted to make a music video, and just really weren't able to do it until like last year. Well, actually, that video was older than when it came out, so it's like it was a
Right.
year old before it even came out. But yeah, the timing was right. Gave him a script. He was moving. He moved to Austin. So yeah, he's living in Austin now, and I was like, that's perfect because I'm really close with the BMX, the Flatland BMX scene in Austin, Texas. So a lot of dudes you see in that music video are my friends.
Right.
So yeah, we just wrote the script. He did it. I had my friend Jim produce the video.
So were you involved in editing the music to the images, or did
No,
they
I
do that
wasn't.
without
He,
you?
Tyler had his own editor. So
Okay.
Tyler, he directed it. He also edited. The only thing I did was I wrote the script, gave him my idea, gave him a
Right.
shot list, and then worked with the shot list with my friend Jim McKay, who's also a BMX writer and photographer, videographer.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, so what's exciting new stuff coming up for you next?
Oh, I'm going on this tour. I'm playing. Well, first, I'm going on tour for a month. I'm playing at Gasa Gasa Wednesday. I'm opening up for Quantic, so it's just Quantic and myself. Let me try to think. I just finished doing some Red Bull work for Red Bull Music Academy. So.
Oh yeah, tell us about that. What's your involvement with the Red Bull Music Academy?
So they have this title called Mr. X. It's like a pun for expert. It's a little silly, but I basically play as kind of like a liaison for the company. So there's like the field marketing manager, and all they deal with is like the field marketing for like Red Bull. They don't necessarily know about the music scene. So that's where I come in, where I play like the middleman between the music academy, the field marketing manager, and the actual like people who are interested in the music academy.
So what's the age for the Music Academy?
It changes wherever it's located at. Like last year it was 21 and up because of the drinking age. Now because in Tokyo you have to be 21 to drink. Now it's in France this year, so it was 18. So it changes year to year.
Okay. Cool. Now, you also mentioned Gasa Gasa. Weren't you involved with a running ongoing series there for a bit? I'm trying to think of where I read
Well,
this.
no, I have my own series. It's called Dolo Jazz Suite.
Right.
We never did that Gasa Gasa.
Oh, it wasn't a Gasa Gasa. Where did that happen?
It happened. We'll throw it. New Orleans. We used to do it at the Big Top. And
Right.
then once the Big Top closed down, we just started doing house shows in New Orleans, and then we do them at Spanish Moon.
Okay, so does it happen is it at a regular interval, or
It's
just
usually a monthly. We usually have a month, or whenever we feel like doing a show.
right? And what's it called again?
Dolo Jazz Suite.
Dolo Jazz. And tell me about that name. What's that?
At the time, I'll go a little bit further back.
Okay.
Justin Peak. He had this program called Merge Music Series,
Right.
which
I've worked with Justin quite a bit.
Yeah, Justin's he's a great guy, and I came up from that scene.
Okay.
So most of the guys I know who are doing like the beats that are with it were actually had a jazz background. Like Justin Peak, he goes by Beautiful Bells. That's his
Right.
electronic music moniker. He's a jazz drummer. My friend Will was a saxophonist. My friend Philippe Edison out of Houston, a saxophonist. And all the guys who I knew weren't actually in the jazz community, kind of fantasize about, I wish I was in the 50s playing bebop. And so there's this, I was looking at the kind of one-man jazz, producers who are making these beats that are jazz influenced, I was like, okay, Dolo Jazz. Dolo is slang for doing it yourself.
Yeah.
The hip hop slang. So I put together Dolo Jazz, and I wanted to. And the sweet part came from a Beautiful Bell song, Southern Sweet Sea. So I just kind of took that because he was the influence for it.
Right. Oh, that's beautiful. And that again sort of shows your look at the community aspect of that scene. Let's open it up for questions a little bit. If we can get some light to see who's there.
Hey, what's up, Amal? How you doing?
What's going on?
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the DIY touring that you're doing and how you set those shows up for yourself, especially when you were just starting out doing it.
Literally, I would just talk to other promoters, or I would talk to other people who were promoters and just okay, where's the weekly events? Where's the monthly events? Since I do it since I do beats live, I was like, okay, where's all the hip hop showcases? The open-minded hip hop showcases. So I would just look for those communities, and I would talk to other people and other producers, other rappers. I would look for that. Then I would look for where are the EDM nights? And I would first look for those communities, all the different music communities. And like I said, I'm more related to the experimental beat scene. So I would look for that first and then look for all the other things first. So I would hit the weeklies and monthlies and then fill in between by just talking to other people. So literally just sometimes just going to a place not knowing anyone, getting a show booked by like just emailing people until they respond back to you over and over and over again. And then you usually talk to someone like, oh, sorry, the show sucked. You should totally play this show and talk to this person. So, so every tour gets better and better. So did I answer your question? Okay.
Austin, yeah.
How's it going? My name is Austin Rep. I was just wondering, when you do something like this Gasa Gasa show you have coming up and you're opening for an artist, if you're booking at a venue, do you have a way about finding out what artists are going to be performing that you could potentially link up with and open for them?
Like for this show, actually, for that Gasa Gasa show, Gasa Gasa reached out to me like 3 months in advance. Like when they first booked the show, they reached out for me to be a book. But usually, generally, like what I would do if I were you, is just like look at a website like Polestar or some kind of website where they show the bookings like way in advance, or find out like Winter Circle Production, like sign up on their email list, see when they book things, and then like hit up either the artist or the actual manager. Contact the manager, send them EPK, email them until they hit you back up, and then like express that you're interested in opening, show your press kit, all that stuff, and talk to them. The way I usually get shows opening is either through the promoter, the artist, or the artist manager. So if you hit all three of those people up, even if they say no, they still know who you are now. So if they come back, just keep getting in contact with them.
So when you're touring, how many of your shows, or I guess what percentage of your shows maybe, are with split bills with other acts?
Usually every time I go on tour, I tour with another act. I bring an act with me. So
it's like the two of y'all always. But then do you pick up local acts as well to bring?
Oh, definitely, especially once I know if I'm going to a place where I actually know the community. Oh yeah, I was like, hey, you want to play a show with me? Let's go. Like for instance, the Brooklyn show I'm playing. My friend Audra, she goes by Kid Audra. I just was like, playing the show, you should totally get on the bill, So yeah. So I usually do find the actual openers when I actually.
Right. And then do you find them getting you to work with them when they come through New Orleans?
Oh yeah, I definitely return the favor. But the thing is, like, I don't work with people to be like, I'm gonna scratch your back, you scratch my back. I just do it generally because like you make great music. Let's do stuff together.
Well, yeah, you find your kindred spirits of we make a good show together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Other questions?
The name Naysayer, where'd you get that from, and why did you take that as your moniker?
Oh, so the Naysayer part, I was really into like hardcore, like punk, especially like DC hardcore scene. Middle school, I was trying to start my own like hardcore band, but we just couldn't find a drummer. Like who's gonna let like a 13-year-old drum, in their house all day, or a 12-year-old. I want to name the band Naysayism. I just kept the Naysayer part.
Naysayism. That's a good like nihilistic punk band name.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're.
Cool. So it doesn't have any like super deep meaning. It's just the. The subject matter of like what we would talk about is like political matters and things we just didn't really things I just didn't appreciate what was going on with the world and whatnot. Right.
So I kind of looked at the word naysayer, but more like the connotation instead of denotation of word. Like I look at it as like speaking up for my rights and not worrying about the consequences about speaking up for myself.
Okay.
That's where the naysayer part comes from.
Good. I like that.
I teach in the program here. I'm a huge fan of how you put your business together. I also am very inspired. I also am very inspired by DC hardcore, the DIY ethos, right? And that's kind of where I came from. And as you were talking, I was thinking, man, you really encompass so much about DIY, from the social, like the peer group thing. Your peer group is so much of what you do, and you're defined so clearly by those relationships and the way you've built your business. Even when you're talking about major network film editors, these are people who are in your network, right? Your BMX network, right? Just like a lot of hardcore kids have skate networks, and right. So, my question for you is: do you see any use in your future? Let's say in your next 5 years, do you see any use for a record label, especially a major label, or you see yourself as being able to do what you do forever under your own steam?
I could totally see myself. I could totally see myself just staying in the DIY lane, but there's certain goals that I want to do, which will be a lot harder for me to do if I wasn't with like a major label and whatnot. So there's like I actually want to work with like orchestra and whatnot, kind of like Jeff Mills did. Jeff Mills is a techno producer.
Yep.
Like he had performed with. I don't remember what orchestra, but they're out of France. But anyways, I like to do more things like that.
So would you agree then that there is a role for a major with you, especially if they made it easier for you to make inroads into, say, film?
Yeah, totally.
Or they were able to write a big check, right?
I just don't. I don't plan on it to necessarily happen, but if it happens, I definitely wouldn't turn away as long as they can meet my demands. But I'm not stupid. I know I have like a lot of friends who went the major label route and they have nothing but horror stories.
Right.
And I learned from their mistakes too.
Exactly. And so what I'd like to say, just for the benefit of the kids in this room who are music business entrepreneurs, is that you need to be able to sort of have a best case and worst case scenario, and your worst case scenario has to be your own personal best case, right? Where you can keep doing this forever just the way you are. And if you get an opportunity to use a label as a bank or as a connector, you can do that, but you're happy as you are, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And what it would take for you to work with a label would be for them to meet your terms, right? Your ownership of your masters, marketing money, guaranteed release, et cetera, right? So you set a high bar for that relationship.
Like honestly, what I would rather just release stuff like on my own label and then license that to a label for distribution or whatnot. I'd rather do that than sign with the label.
Yeah, right on. That's you could not be taking a better message to these students. So thank you very much. Because I agree with it. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I agree.
Fully endorsed by Billy O'Connell.
No, I mean, I totally. You're totally badass, and you do everything right. So, I mean, in my opinion, thank you.
And
thank
on
you.
that note, I will say I think Amal will be up here to answer some of your individual questions if you'd like to come say hi. Once again, AF the Naysayer.